Good morning, everyone. Again, um, thank you for again coming and joining today morning. Again, we will. Can you hear? Seems like they are not hearing.
Testing.
Yes, we can hear. Thank you.
Can you hear? Okay.
Yes, Gestula, we can hear. Thank you.
Make yourself comfortable and relax as much as we can. You feel your weight of the body on cushion. Yeah. Feel the surrounding. And as you inhale and exhale naturally, bring your mind to observe mindfully and be aware of inhaling and exhaling. Then we can try to contemplate life is too short to get distracted. Was not so important, mundane things. Instead, it would be more meaningful and better if we can focus and direct this short period of our life towards our Dhamma practice. Because it is only through the practice we can find some peace, inner joy, and happiness. That we cannot achieve from external things and objects. And it is only through the Dhamma practice we can cultivate and improve highest level of unconditional love, compassion, both in the mind, the wisdom, and all other positive spiritual experiences or realization. Also, we cannot buy and achieve those internal spiritual experience from external objects. And it is only through the Dhamma practice and those spiritual experiences that can help us now at the time of death, after the death. Nothing else, all others we leave behind. Also with those Dhamma practice and with those spiritual experience, it can help us to have less frustration, less fear, less anger, less attachment, less selfish attitude. With less of all of those and with positive state of mind, we can interact and be more and better interaction with anyone in our life. It make you happy, it makes others happy. And we will be able to be more health benefit. Eventually to achieve our highest potential fully awakened state. in order to practice the Dharma, we have to be reminded of the practice. Again and again, over and over. Otherwise, we easily get distracted with other mundane things. We're not being able to find time for our own practice. With that, days goes, weeks go, months or years goes, and come to an end without having achieved much. So in order to be reminded of those practices, then we try to listen, read, study, learn, and trying to reflect, contemplate on what we have learned, and put into our practice as much as possible. That is the purpose of being here, coming here together. Us coming together, listening, reflecting, contemplating, engaging in discussion. May all this become cause and condition to encourage, inspire us to practice. Yeah. Like you should go to people. So last couple of weeks, we discussed about meditative concentration. Yeah, and related with that, Lama Tsongkhapa said, meditative concentration is a king, like a king, ruling the mind. When placed, it is as immovable as Mount Meru. So when you put your mind to any object, any virtuous object or any object, nothing no distraction, external, internal distraction can move your mind from completely being focused and concentrated on that object. You know, when set forth, when you let it go, it engages all virtues object. It has the capacity or the potential to, embrace and engage in all the virtues object. It endures great bliss of serviceable body and mind. And when we have developed that kind of mental concentration, kama abiding samatha, then your mind becomes very, very serviceable, flexible. Wherever you want, you can direct it. And due to that kind of serviceable flexibility of mind, it induces great bliss, mental bliss, as well as it makes your body also much more serviceable, flexible. And then also it induces the physical blissfulness. Your body doesn't become so stiff like at the moment. Sometimes our body becomes very, very stiff. Our muscle body become very stiff. Instead, due to that mental state, it makes your body much more relaxed. Because with that mental relax, your body becomes extremely relaxed. With that very relax of your body and everything in your body, it induces great bliss. So here is, having understood this, the Lord of the yogis relied continuously on the meditative stabilization that destroyed the enemy distraction. So that meditative concentration, kama abiding, is that overcomes and destroys the distraction. I, a yogi, practice like this. You who desire liberation should do likewise. So that was Lama Tsongkhava's advice. He said that is what he practiced. And for those who also want to develop such kama abiding, meditative concentration, free from all the distractions, and who wish to achieve liberation, you should also try to practice that. So last week we talked about, a little bit about that kind of how to develop or how to cultivate such meditative concentration. Yeah. So, and within the kama abiding meditative concentrations, here Adisha explained first gathering the right conducive conditions. Once you have gathered the right conducive condition, then engage in the practice by focusing on one object at the very beginning when we try to develop that, and then, once we have that meditative concentration, then it makes our other practice much more easier. Because whatever practice we do, you will be able to do with total commitment, concentration. Whether you are meditating on bodhicitta, whether you are meditating loving kindness, compassion, whether you are meditating on emptiness, renunciation, whatever object or meditating on any deities, that practice becomes very, very powerful and easy to have those results because your mind will be totally focused. and especially, in order to have the special insight, uh, the penetrating wisdom, that destroyed the root of all the other delusion and samsara, in order to have um, that special insight wisdom, then one need to first develop such samabhiding or mental concentration. Okay? So in some of the page number 1, 2, 5. Yeah. So in I think page number 5, and in verse number 4, 3, I think 3. Okay. We are in verse number 3 of that. When a practitioner achieves shamatha, through such practice, through such meditation, when a practitioner is able to achieve such meditative concentration shamatha, higher knowledge are also attained, as mentioned before. With that, with that shamatha, then one can use that shamatha as a tool to develop higher knowledge, which help us to be more benefit to others, giving us the tools to be more help and benefit to others and oneself. So that will be able to achieve through that shamatha. But without a practice of perfection, of wisdom, even you have developed the shamatha, but if you have not developed the perfection of wisdom, special insight of wisdom, the obscuration will not be eliminated. Then, one will not be able to eliminate all the obscuration that obscure us from achieving higher level of spiritual path, to progress on the path, spiritual path, which obscure from us to achieve nirvana liberations, that obscure us to achieve our highest potential, fully awaken, or the Buddhahood, that will not be able to. So therefore, shamatha itself or karma abiding itself is not enough. That's what I'm saying. Is we need to develop that, but that itself is not enough for the purpose that you are trying to meditate. The purpose of our meditation is not just to feel blissfulness, You can use other substance to just feel blissfulness, But if you want to get rid of all the delusions, which are the root of all the problem, then we need to develop that wisdom. That we cannot, get rid of those delusions by taking some kind of, drug substances, It's not, so therefore, that is why, in order to overcome obscuration and to achieve true lasting happiness, then we need that wisdom. One of the great Indian masters, I don't know his name in Sanskrit, but in Tibetan, Chandrapomen, Levin Chandrapomen. And he was a lay practitioner. I think at the same time as Santagiri. So he mentioned, without a wisdom, even you have been able to develop high level of material concentration, shamatha, you can subside or push the afflictive emotion from arising it, but you cannot get completely rid of them without the wisdom, just by the shamatha itself. He gave an example, when you make a fire in the forest, that fire will destroy all the bushes and everything. But all those trees who have very strong root, it will not be able to destroy all of them. And then later, when it rains next year or later, then again those will start to grow. Because you haven't destroyed, it hasn't destroyed the root. As long as you have not destroyed the root, even though you burn all the leaves and all of that, but when certain condition comes, such as the rain and water and that, it will start to grow again. Until the root has been disturbed. Until if you have, if the fire has really kind of burned the root itself, then even if it gets rain, it will not be able to come back again. It will not be able to grow again. Similarly, that is an example he gave. And he says, similarly, because the root of afflictive emotions, of the self-grasping, ignorance, so strong-rooted, without the wisdom, you cannot cut that root. And without cutting that root, other delusions that arises from that root, when the cause and condition comes, then it will again arise. So with the meditative concentrations, you can only kind of, stop them from arising. Because you are in such a deep meditative concentrations, because you are in such deep meditative concentration, when you have such meditative concentration, it doesn't allow or give space for any thought to arise. All the thought things dissolve. And when there's no thought, of course, all those delusion are conception thought. So they do not also arise. They do not also arise. But when you are in not deep meditations, when you are in the world, engaging others, then again, because you are not in deep meditations, so then thought arises again. And then you encounter certain cause and condition, anger could arise, attachment could arise, jealousy could arise. It doesn't arise as long as you deep meditation on that, but when you are not there, then again, because you haven't got root of it. So therefore, that is why, cultivating the wisdom is important and key. That's here. So on top of the shamatha, you develop shamatha, but that is not enough. On top of that, you need to develop wisdom, and wisdom is even more important to cut the root of samsara and the delusion. Without that wisdom, one cannot cut the root of the delusion of samsara. No matter how powerful your meditative concentration is, how high your meditative concentration is. So therefore, we need both the union of the wisdom and the karma abiding or meditative concentration. You need both of them. And then in some of the teachings, they give example. If you are trying to look a painting in the dark, in the room, or in the temple, monastery, or whatever, wherever, you need the light to see those paintings, because if it's dark, you cannot see it. But not only to see clearly, not only you need the light, if the candle is blowing by the wind, you cannot see clearly. You need a light such as candle, stable candle. Of course, nowadays we can use a flashlight, but of course, this is giving an old example. In the old time, when you don't have those flashlights, and you need the light of the candle, but also without the wind that moves. Same way, the light is like the wisdom. And unmoving, stable is the meditative concentration, the shamatha. And you need both of that, And when then you can see the clarity of the painting. Same way, then we will be able to see the clarity of the reality of the self, phenomena, all the objects. Also, in some other teachings, they give an example of, axe to cut the wood, and someone who need a very strong, stable shoulder, If you don't have a strong, stable shoulder, if you keep on hitting axe at every different places each time, you will never be able to cut it. Do you get it? You should be able to hit at the same places all the time with that stability. And if you keep on hitting one place all the time, you will be able to cut the tree, branches, whatever you are trying to cut. But even the axe is very sharp. Each time you hit at different places, then you cannot. Same way, that is the axe is like the wisdom. And someone with a strong shoulder, with a stability where he can hit at the same place, that is like the wisdom. The shamatha, the karma abide. Again, you need both of that. So in different teachings, scriptures, they give different examples to emphasize the importance of cultivating both the shamatha and the wisdom. Why we need both of them to cut the very root of the samsara and the delusion. And so similarly here, it is also here, in order to eliminate the obscurations, not only you need the shamatha, but you need the wisdom, the professional wisdom that is supported by that shamatha, that karma abiding. Therefore, in order to abandon without exceptions, which means all the obscuration, because there are many different kinds of obscuration. So mainly two obscuration, even though there are so many different obscuration, but when you kind of condense, you can condense in the mainly two different obscuration. Here, the emotional obscuration and cognitive obscuration. In other translations, obscuration, liberation, and obscuration, omniscience. So that is more kind of sometimes again that is one of the problem we find with all the translation. Everyone is using so many different translations, and sometimes it just seems like totally different. But again, sometimes you use obscuration of afflictive emotions, obscurations of knowledge or omniscience here. So so basically the obscurations of here, whether it's afflictive emotions or emotional or liberation, is those obscurations such as afflictive emotions, delusions, defilements, that obscure to achieve liberation, or nirvana. To nirvana, So therefore, in order to eliminate such obscurations, obscuration of the affective emotions or obscuration to the liberation, in order to that, you need the wisdom realizing emptiness that is supported by the shamatha. Without that, you will not be able to overcome that obscuration. Without overcoming that obscuration, one will not be able to free from the samsara. One will not be able to achieve the liberation or nirvana. Not only that, also cognitive or obscuration to the omniscience or enlightenment. Not only that, also in order to overcome and eliminate the other kind of obscuration, the obscuration to the omniscient or fully enlightenment, also you need the wisdom that is supported by that shamatha. Without that, again, you cannot overcome such obscuration. So that is more subtle obscuration. Even the arhat, those who have free from all the defilement or obscure emotions, even those who have achieved nirvana, they still have this subtle obscuration, the obscuration to the omniscient or fully enlightenment. And that obscuration is, they don't have any more delusion. They don't have any more delusion or affective emotion. But still, because of that subtle obscuration, they still have the appearance of the object, as truly or inherent existence. They don't have the grasping, they still have the appearance of that, And so that, because of that appearance, still, they have been obscure and to become omniscient, fully enlightened, or obscure to see the both reality, ultimate and conventional reality, directly, simultaneously, with one mind, and so that is the subtle obscuration. So again, also without the wisdom, that also obscuration cannot be overcome. Therefore, the need to develop the wisdom in order to overcome both kind of obscuration, both type of obscuration. Okay. Constantly meditate on a practice of the perfection of wisdom with skillful means. Therefore, one should try to contemplate, meditate continuously all the time, on the emptiness or the perfection of wisdom that relies the emptiness that is being supported by skillful means, the method of the skillful means. So from here, then, you know, the author explained on the perfection of wisdom. You know, we just finished perfection of the meditative concentration or shamatha, and now it starts with you know, practice or meditation on especially insight or perfection of wisdom. And with that, then Adisha Dibamkara here explain again, not only we need to develop, because this is Mahayana teachings, that is Mahayana path, Bodhisattva path. So not only we need to cultivate a wisdom, but that wisdom need to be enhanced or supported by the method or skillful means. Okay? And so that is why here is saying wisdom without skillful means and skillful means without wisdom are said to be form of bondage by the Buddha in one of the sutras. Therefore, do not relinquish either. So therefore, we should not neglect or ignore any of those skillful means or method and wisdom. Both method and wisdom are important. So in one of the sutra, again, in Tibetan, it's Imam Evatapiddo, the sutra of proclaiming non-stain or free from the stain, literally, but in that sutra, Buddha's mentioned, wisdom without a skillful means or method is bondage. Wisdom with a skillful means or method is liberation. And he also said, compassion or method without wisdom is bondage. Compassion or method with wisdom is liberation. So even we have compassion, loving kindness, both to the mind, if you don't have that wisdom, you still cannot be free from the samsara. You are still samsara. One will still be tied up in samsara. One can have very high level of unconditional, unbiased, undiscriminating love, compassion, both the mind. But if you don't have the perfection of wisdom, you will still be in samsara. You cannot be free from the samsara. Therefore, without that wisdom, it's still bonded, still in samsara, tied up in samsara. On the other hand, even if you have that wisdom, realizing the emptiness of the reality, supported by shamatha, but if you don't have true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, the method, still you cannot achieve fully awakened state, your highest potential, the non-abiding nirvana. And still, even you are not samsara, but you are still sentient being. You are not a fully enlightened Buddha. You are not in samsara, you are free from samsara, you have achieved liberation, but you are still not achieve your highest potential, the fully awakened state. You are still not fully awakened of the Buddha. You are still sentient being. And so what tied you in being as sentient beings from becoming a Buddha is that due to lack of that method, love, compassion, both to the mind. So therefore, in that sense, is a bondage. But when you are able to develop the wisdom with that love and compassion, then you can achieve fully awakened state and free from being bondage of sentient being to fully awakened, fully enlightened Buddha. So that is, and without achieving fully enlightenment or fully awakened state, not only you are unable to fulfill the highest purpose of others, still you will not be able to fulfill your even highest purpose. So, one will be not able to fulfill the highest purpose of either others in oneself. So therefore, so that is the also Lama Tsongkhapa in his Good Lamrim, he explained, if you don't have the wisdom, sometimes when we see and when we feel the pain and suffering of other sentient beings so much, one can be too overwhelmed. Do you get it? You see so much pain and suffering all the time, everywhere. You feel the pain and suffering everywhere, all the time. One can feel very overwhelmed by that. One can be very overwhelmed by that. When one is very overwhelmed by that, sometimes people collapse. And sometimes they just kind of, create a wall to protect themselves from being too overwhelmed. And then when you create that wall, then you pretend you don't see others' problems suffering, as though no one is suffering, and you just ignore them, which is not fair. And so, but when you have the wisdom, when one has the wisdom, then you don't become overwhelmed by seeing and feeling so much suffering and so much pain there. Even though you can see and feel the pain and suffering of sentient beings 24 hours all the time, still it doesn't overwhelm you. And what helps you to not be overwhelmed by that is that wisdom. That wisdom. Also, when we have too much of wealth, power, when someone has too much power, a lot of power, a lot of wealth, a lot of fame, reputation, a lot of times people get distracted by them, temptation by them, and they lose the path. Even someone at the very beginning when they started, even in say, let's say social activities, someone started the best intention to serve the world, to serve the society with the best intention. They give even their life, all their, even they give, but after some time when they started to have more fame and, reputation, sometimes power, wealth, all, sometimes they lose the path. Sometimes then they get caught up in that. They change, the path. Why they are unable to keep on the same path that they started? Because they were tempted, they were distracted and attached in all these things that provided. But if you have the wisdom, realizing the emptiness or the perfection of wisdom, then one will not be distracted by such things. One will not lose the path by such things. Again, the wisdom helps us to be on the path without losing it. So when you have that, even you have been surrounded by all, everything's, still you are not attached to any of them. You are not attached to any of them. You are not attached, even though you have so much wealth, you are not attached to wealth. Even you might have all the fame and reputation, you are not attached to them. Even you have all the power, nothing, you are not attached to them. You are ready to let it go anytime if it's needed. You are not attached to them. You are not thinking to them. You are no fear worry of losing them. Because you are not attached to them. And that is what the wisdom helps us, to be able to do that. So there are few others, Lam Song Kapa explained, how that wisdom really support and help in our path. Therefore, the need of the wisdom, cultivate that wisdom. And not only wisdom supported by the skillful means or the method. Even if you have the wisdom, if you don't have the true love, compassion, both the mind, then you might not be so much help and service to others. Even you have the tools, means to be help and benefit, you will not be help and benefit to others because you don't have that driving energy of love, compassion, both for someone else. And to be benefit to others and to be help to others and to be able to follow both of the path of being service to others and help to others. Not only you need the wisdom, you also need the skillful means, the method such as love, compassion, bodhicitta, and other practices. So that is why in all the teachings, they always say the importance of both method and the wisdom equal. As Chandrakiri explained, he gave an example of two wings of the bird. For the bird to fly over the ocean to the shore, the bird needs both wings. With one wing, they will not be able to fly over there. In the same way, to fly over the shore of the samsara, ocean of samsara to the shore of non-abiding nirvana or fully enlightened state, and we need both the wisdom of love and compassion, the method and wisdom. Not only on a spiritual level, of course, that is on a spiritual level, but even in our everyday life, it becomes very clear the need of both the wisdom and compassion. Some people are extremely compassionate, kind, loving, caring, but sometimes they don't have the wisdom. And then they are not being able to help and benefit so much. Not due to lack of love, compassion, the wish to be service, the wish to help, but due to lack of not having those wisdom, how to be helped, how to benefit. On the other hand, sometimes some people have all these tools, skills, means, wisdom. They know how to fix the problem. They know how to, whatever problem or they have the solution to fix and everything, but they don't have the compassion, the love, compassion to extend their help, to extend their help. And so they don't, even they could help someone and even they could reduce someone's suffering, pain, relieve someone's pain and suffering, even they have the tools, means to do, even they could do that, but sometimes they do not do, or we do not do that because we don't feel the compassion for that person. We cannot feel compassion. We should not feel true love, compassion for them. That is due to lack of the method. Um, mm. So here, that is where here also Adisha is saying why we cannot neglect either of them, the wisdom or the method. Here they use skillful means, but that is the method. Another translation, method. Sometimes mm. Also Nagarjuna in one of his writings, due to all the merit or the virtue, all this, may I be able to complete the collections of the merit of wisdom. Here the merit is the method, um, and through the completion of merit and the wisdom, may one be able to achieve the two kaya or the bodies of the Buddha, Dharmakaya and Rupakaya, and so again, and also in Sutra, Sutra, one of the Sutra, I just, as the author said, it just mentioned here, the importance of both method and wisdom. So then author is saying, he's going to explain what is the skillful means and what he means by skillful means in method here. To eliminate the doubt concerning what is wisdom and what are the skillful means, I shall clarify the correct distinction between the skillful means and the wisdom. So here it says, if someone has any misunderstanding or doubt, or not clearly understood what is meant by the wisdom, what is mean by skillful means. When we hear there, you need to have both skillful means and the wisdom. Why you shouldn't give up or neglect either of them, but to practice both of them equally and to have that. So he says he's going to give more clarity and trying to explain what those are. So then here, first he's explaining about with the exception of the perfection of wisdom, the accumulation of all virtues action, such as the perfection of generosity and so forth, are described as skillful means by the victorious one. So, here is saying the Buddha has said in sutras, the Buddha, victorious one, the Buddha has explained in the sutras that all the practice in terms of 6 perfection, 10 perfection, all the practice of other, such as the practice of perfection generosity, the practice of perfection of the moral discipline, perfection of the patience, perfection of the joyous effort in the virtues, the perfection of the meditative concentration, they all follow into this skillful means or method. And the perfection of wisdom is the wisdom, but rest of five perfections are part of this skillful means of the method. And if we take, in all 10 perfections, then, there's except for the wisdom and exalted wisdom, except for those two, rest of 8 are part of the skillful means or the practice of skillful means of the method. And in terms of, the practice of loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, generating a, renunciations, pure renunciation, having the faith or refuge in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, um, all this practice, going to refuge, all this practice are part of the skillful means of the method, except, the wisdom relies on impermanent, wisdom relies on the, the law of cause and effect or let's say nirvana, karma, and wisdom relies on the selflessness, then those can be part of the wisdom, But within that wisdom, the main wisdom is the professional wisdom is the wisdom relies on the emptiness. That is the main one. So then here also explains why, of course, first he explained why we need to develop material concentration. And then once we have developed material concentration, why we need to develop the wisdom, And once he explained why we need to develop the wisdom, he explained why we need to develop the skillful means or the method as well. Okay. And so in that, whosoever cultivate the wisdom through the power of cultivating skillful means, So the wisdom relies on emptiness. Whoever cultivate and develop that wisdom relies on emptiness, that has been supported by, skillful means or methods such as to love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and other practices. We strictly attain enlightenment, but not through meditation on selflessness alone. So here he says, by meditating, by just on selflessness or emptiness itself, will not be able to achieve fully enlightenment. Therefore, if you want to achieve fully enlightenment, not only fully enlightenment strictly, then you need to not only develop the wisdom, but you also need to develop the skillful means such as to love, compassion, both to the mind, and other practices, such as engagement, practice, generosity, so forth, motivated those loving kindness, compassion, both to the motivation. To cut the subtle obscuration, okay? The subtle obscuration, the omniscience, or fully enlightenment. To cut that, wisdom alone is not enough. The wisdom need to be supported by the method, the bodhicitta mind. The wisdom of the arhat. Arhat has the wisdom that relies emptiness directly. That wisdom is able to cut the obscuration of the liberation, but it is unable to cut the obscuration of omniscience. Why is that? Because that wisdom is not being supported by the bodhicitta mind, the method. If that wisdom is supported by the bodhicitta mind, then not only it can act as an antidote or and cut the obscuration of liberation, but it can also cut the obscuration of omniscience. And so therefore, in order to achieve fully enlightenment or to achieve the omniscience, then one need to cultivate both wisdom and the method, the bodhicitta mind. And so And then next, and then actually, then it comes to the actual presentations of the karma abiding, the wisdom, you know, after explain why we need to develop the wisdom. Not only we need to develop the wisdom that is supported by the method, the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And then next one goes more detail with the meditation or wisdom itself. So we'll discuss and talk more about that. So any questions? Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, the method in Tantra is slightly different than what we talk about here. In Tantra, or especially High Yoga Tantra, the method is referring to more of the illusory body, and uh, the, the wisdom refers to mostly clear light mind. Um, and whether we use clear light mind or whether we use the emptiness as a female, because it's related with the mother. Okay, female with the mother. In some of the scriptures they give example is that if the mother has many children, it's one mother, but there could be different fathers, can be different fathers, but it's one mother. Similarly, the wisdom is that whether you want to achieve higher arhat or solitary arhat or bodhisattvas arhat or fully enlightenment, they all have to rely on the same wisdom. It is the cause for everyone. It gives birth to all these different spiritual goals, or for different those who are inclined to different spiritual paths. Whether you are looking for individual liberation or whether you are looking for a bodhisattva path, liberation for all sentient beings, either way, for both of them to achieve their goal, or three, sometimes within that individual liberation, then there's a hidden and solitary realizers. Sometimes you three enlightenment. To achieve all of them, they all have to rely on the wisdom. So it is like the mother. Whereas they don't all have to achieve that, they don't all have to rely on the bodhicitta mind. To achieve individual liberation, arhat, you don't have to have the bodhicitta mind. The method, the father. You don't need to have that. So to have the birth of those, then you need to wisdom. So therefore, that is why wisdom is described as a mother, and so therefore human entity. And bodhicitta mind, in Sutra, bodhicitta mind is described like the father, male entity, and yeah. So yeah, yes, 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 please. Well, as is mentioned, the skillful means are all the practices, all the virtuous practices, whether it's let's say loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, the practice of generosity, all of whether it's internal or external practice of any virtues that are not a wisdom. All the virtues practice which are not a wisdom is the skillful means, the method. But when we talk about skillful or method, mainly the in terms of bodhisattva practice, the main one is true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind. And then, out of that bodhicitta mind, then engage in the practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, enthusiasm, and meditative concentration, and so forth. But of course, we can also, for example, the renunciations, the wish to achieve the wish to achieve, nirvana. Also, that is part of the method. And also, like if we talk from the Lambrim, we start with the Guru devotion. Guru devotion part of the practice of method. Going to the refuge is part of method, part of practice of method. Of course, whether it's a Guru devotion, whether it's the refuge, they can be supported by the wisdom, but the practice itself is the method, and then, engage out of that refuge, then engaging into trying to live your life by avoiding any of non-virtuous actions, engaging in virtuous actions. Those are part of the method. Yeah, or skillful. I'm using the method, but here is skillful means. I want to see what the other translations say. Yeah, also here is skillful means. In Tibetan, is a tap. So tap can be translated, different translation anyway. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, please? Comments? Yeah. Yes, Leah. Yes. It could be many lives walk. Okay. Not just one life to walk. It depends on individual, just like in everything, due to our previous imprint, karmic connections, imprint, due to how much effort we put, many conditions. There are so many different conditions. So depending on that, many conditions come from past as well as present and so forth. Some people might able to do in one lifetime, some in a few lives, some 100 lives, some take 1,000 lives, some maybe like myself, maybe 100,000 lives, or even more. So it is a many lives works. Some of them we might not be, might not be able to put into practice immediately all the time, but at least we keep in our inspirations, even though I'm unable to apply that immediately, but having the inspiration to apply that in the future, to be able to practice. So keeping in a way of inspiration, some of those practice. Some of those sort of practice, we cannot implement immediately, but keeping inspirations and prayers that may I be able to integrate and practice them in the future. But whatever we can integrate, whatever we can apply, we try to apply, integrate as much as possible according to our individual level. Right? Any question? You don't have to feel you need to caution if you don't have caution, okay? So if not, then yeah, we do the dedication, but if there is any questions, still, yes, please. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. How wisdom can help us to not be overwhelmed? Because the reason why we put wall is because we are being overwhelmed. You know, that is the reason why we try to put wall, because we are overwhelmed and so want to protect ourselves. Because when you are overwhelmed, you cannot function well. You know, you don't know what to do. You don't know anyway. So, um, but when you have that wisdom relaxing emptiness, then even that feeling of overwhelming or the suffering itself, or you yourself who is feeling overwhelmed, you see emptiness for all of that. When you see emptiness of that, you don't feel so overwhelmed. At the moment, we feel there is strong sense of me, I, who is experiencing this overwhelmness by seeing and feeling the pain of others. Because we have very strong grasping due to that feeling. That feeling feels so strong, so solid, so concrete. And when we understand the emptiness of that, it dissolves. It's no more. It's no more. So the feeling is no more any kind of concrete, solid, um, strong anymore. And then also when one realizes emptiness, and then you also see there's no me that we feel at the moment, who's inherently existing me, we feel very solid and concrete, that is experiencing that feeling of overwhelmment. When you see that there's no more of that person that you are feeling, also, then again, you don't be overwhelmed by that. So therefore, that is, you know, and that applies to any kind of feeling. When you have strong attachment, when you have, even we don't have a realization. Of course, if we have a realization, that will be no doubt totally different experience. But even when you have a strong, whatever emotion that we might be going through, strong overwhelmness or strong fear, strong attachment, strong. If you try to do meditation on emptiness, on that feeling itself, if we do give it time to really go through the meditation over a few, even 20 minutes, really slowly go down, you will feel the pain, the whatever feeling less intense than before. You already started to feel kind of, you know, lighter and less touchable, less concrete, less that. You already feel that. Um, and one can do with, and one can feel that way either by doing on the feeling itself or by doing on yourself, the person who's feeling that feeling, maybe, who is feeling this, whatever, whether strong attachment or feeling overwhelmed, whatever. Where is I or me? What is I and me? Who's feeling that so strong? If you do same kind of meditation, again, even though we don't have realization, but even just doing that analysis and meditation already help you to reduce the intensity of that strong, whatever feeling that is bothering us or disturbing us. Um, that, you can try, I can say, um, definitely I have no realization, but sometimes I'm unable to do that meditation all the time, but sometimes I do that. And when I'm able to do that, when I do that, I do feel the reducing of the intensity of what I'm feeling that you are going through, you know. Um, and so already that you can see the um, some effect of that. And then of course, if you have really realization, and then when you have that awareness or that realization all the time, then definitely that would be another really, very different experience. Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The more compassion you have, the more you see and feel the suffering of others. And at the same time, you have the wisdom. While you see and feel that wisdom, at the same time, you will not be overwhelmed by that feeling, as Lama Tsongkhapa explained. Yeah, definitely. I think not only Lama Tsongkhapa explaining his teaching, but I think if we also try to apply that, we can be able to see a little bit of that within our small things, how that is the truth and how that really is. Okay? Yeah, we can do the dedications. That my suffering in body and mind, opening, fortune, happiness, and joy. My perfect my name. May all live in peace and suffer. May the evil look for it. May no one be out there and be little with a mind weighed down by depression. When the bad days come, may the body of wounded soul, the day soul, and before. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food, may the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those who restore find joy. May the poor alone find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. And bountiful and may all medicine be effective, important prayer bear fruit. May all who are safe and ill be free tomorrow. Whatever disease they are in, may they never occur again. May the fighting cease to be afraid, those bound be free. May the powerless find her. May the fortune of meditation be. Otherwise, take the name for no name until then, may the truth for this world and the. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day without being overwhelmed. Thank you.